All right, there we go. Got that going. And got that going. Yo, happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. We're doing some comfort food painting tonight. My brain is completely fried. The kids were a handful today. And I also was able to try a whole new recipe. We had some chuck shoulder, right? So kind of bigger piece of meat. Normally you make pot roast with it, but I was doing a little dabbling and I was like, oh, I can kind of reverse sear this like a steak. So that's what I did. But you put it in the oven, basically a reverse sear. Normally with beef or meat or something, whenever you sear it, you're going to sear the meat first, really high heat. You sear it on one side, sear it on the other, and then you bake it or put it in an oven or a crock pot or whatever, and then let it cook. But a reverse sear, you do it the other way. So you fully cook the thing, whatever it is, you fully cook it first. Then you get a scorching hot cast iron, and then you do your sear at the very, very end. And it turned out really good. I was worried because normally with a chuck roast, like a big piece, it can either dry out or not cook all the way through. But thankfully, I did an hour. I did the oven at 300 degrees and did an hour per pound. And it worked pretty well. Came out at about 140 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about where you want it for medium. Then I let it set for about 25 minutes. Then went out to the grill, got a cast iron, put butter, garlic in there, did the whole thing. So it was a whole experience, but it turned out great. It turned out really good. And I will be cooking stuff like that going forward, because I think I like that better than how pot roast is, because I like pot roast. If you put carrots and potatoes and stuff, it's super good. And, kids like it, and, everyone eats for 4 days because you can put a 10-pound piece of meat there. But doing the reverse here was a lot of fun. It was just a lot of extra steps that you're not used to doing that kind of meat. So, with all the stuff going on, plus new ingredients and cooking methods and stuff, my brain's kind of shot today. So, all that being said, we're going to do a portrait painting in the style that we would if we were in art school. So, an atelier setting. This is how I was trained to do portrait art. And we're going to treat it just like I have a canvas with oil paints and stuff on there. We're going to be using ArtRage. It's really going to be kind of an alla prima thing. I might use a few layers, but not very many. And then after a while, I'm going to merge all the layers anyway and then kind of push it to final. I think we'll use ArtRage for the whole thing. I could jump over to Photoshop. I could jump over to Krita. I could do that, but I haven't used ArtRage in quite a while. Not for a whole piece, at least. So I think it might be nice to just sort of really veg out, just use one program and do the thing, So it's good, man. I highly recommend it. I highly recommend learning how to cook and learning how to cook all different types of food and styles of food and stuff. It's super fun. It's kind of nice because, at the end of it, you get to eat and all that good stuff. And I don't know, you're sharing it with your family and your loved ones, or even if you're cooking for yourself, you got to treat yourself sometimes. And so that's a lot of fun. So I'm going to move the mic over here, and we're going to do a portrait study of Henry Cavill as The Witcher. So I actually got this idea. I have a tutorial by Arthur Gain. I love Arthur's work. Arthur is one of the coolest, incredible portrait artists I have ever seen, period. He is in the top echelon in the world, in my opinion, and he has a big collection of painting tutorials that he puts out, and I bought all of them. And one of them is this Witcher study. So I've seen this study. I've seen him do this study. This is the reference that he provides. Let me turn this back on. So for instance, this is the reference he provided. It's kind of a low resolution screen grab, but he actually talks about that he likes using that because then he has to invent the rest of it, which is a smart way to go. But then this is his version with oil paints. Dude's unfreaking believable. So this is the type of vibe that I want to go for. I really want to like dig in and, you know, looking at it now, like looking at it when I first got this tutorial, probably like 3 years ago, there was no way. I was like, that's impossible. Like, how in the world? But now I kind of know what he's doing. I can kind of see it. I can see the shadow shapes, how it's a little more transparent. I can see the kind of the higher saturation around before your planes turn into shadow planes. Also, you can see some highlights, some nice, vibrant cyans and like turquoise and stuff that he puts in here. Just random little bits to kind of spark up the interest. Same thing here. Just kind of nice little brush strokes. Same thing, he uses the palette knife. He scrapes away paint to do the hair. So we might do something similar to that. But yeah, the dude's a genius, right? So this is the reference. So we're just going to do our own version of this reference. Like I have his off to the side, just if I want to study kind of what he does, like right around the nose, we can see nice yellows, some of those really thick highlights that he has right there. What I'm learning, if we go more for the traditional style as far as paintings, a good tip to remember, your shadows are going to be transparent while your highlights are going to be opaque. Your highlights are going to be very thick, very full, fully loaded brushes, a lot of paint, but you can see the shadows are almost glazed in. And that's an interesting idea that I want to kind of take forward. And ArtRage, in my opinion, is, I mean, as good, if not better than, other traditional style softwares. I can get more dynamic, and I've talked about this on the ArtRage versus Rebel debate. Where's my beverage? But ArtRage gets me a more dynamic picture faster. Rebel, I have more control, but that also means you have to do more to get there. Does that make sense? So, that's what we're going to do. Yeah. Yeah, what's interesting also is like the teeth is just one or two brush strokes. Not very many, you know what I mean? Like it's a thing across and then you kind of partition a little bit inside. And then the eyes here work really well because they are glazed into. That's the thing with eyes that's very important, and we can talk about that. Eyes set inside of the skull. A lot of times people make the eyes too bright. They make them too light, the value of them too light. If you're getting light, kind of how we're getting it in our deal right here, the light's coming here kind of from up top, kind of directly down, so you're getting that cast shadow from the brow line. Notice that the value of the eyes, even the quote-unquote white of the eyes, is darker than even the mid-tone of where the light is. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's super great. Like if you're big into that kind of the impressionistic, one brushstroke tells a lot of things. I mean, Anders Zorn and John Singer Sargent are the people that you can have a field day. Literally, I have a bunch of books on my bookshelf, and I have done that from time to time. Like, how do they do this? And try to break it down, you know. It's very, 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 very difficult. But if you can introduce some of it, it's a lot of fun to do. So yeah, we're going to do our own style of this, essentially, right? Now, I could bring in, inside of ArtRage, I could bring in this painting, this exact image, as a reference image and like put it on the panel and like trace other lines and all that stuff, but I'm not going to. I'm going to eyeball it, but also it sounds weird that we're doing a portrait study and I'm about to say this, but I'm not super worried about likeness. I know the whole point of a portrait is to make a picture look like a person. But with this, I'm more interested in kind of the light versus dark here, like this dark versus this dark versus weird the stuff here where you can kind of see almost a purple, and then you have the green of the eyes, or relative, I should say, green of the eyes. You kind of have a washed out hood, but a lot of really interesting color pops around. You know what I mean? There's like a lot to look at that's not necessarily like, oh, that doesn't look like Henry Cavill. Like, all right, that's fine. And we can always like liquefy tool and fix it. That's likeness is one of those things that, you know, it is a fundamental in getting it in proportion and stuff like that. But really, the more I do these and the more I do portraits, I'm more interested in the vibe that it gives off. Like, what kind of attitude, what kind of personality does this character, rather than like, oh, it's Henry Cavill. It's like, okay, well, what emotion is he feeling here? And can we get a portrait with that emotion? That's more important, and I think more people resonate with that. Because, I mean, pound for pound, if we go back all the way back to my art school days in like 2005 to 2007, we probably did 300 of these type of paintings. Okay, so I'm literally going to follow the steps that I would do if I were sitting down, if I went to an open forum. You know, we were doing a portrait study, you sit down, you bring your own materials, you had, you know, however many hours. I think we're only going to paint for about 2.5 hours tonight, but we'll see how far we get. And we'll talk a little bit about making portraits. Now, this is sort of a preliminary run. I do plan on making a whole portrait course. In fact, I plan on making quite a few of them, because there's different ways you can go about it. And you can do the anatomy side and the proportion, and eyes are one eye apart from each other. You know, you can do all that, Loomis method, you know, Hogarth, and, you know, all that stuff. But there's also something else. There's another thing, and I'm interested in that other thing. Don't know quite what it's called yet. Maybe personality? I don't know. But I have a limited palette that I made. This is basically a Zorn palette, but I added a little bit of, yeah, so it's like a brown shadow, because we're going to be using those. But like, here's one called like Black in Cold Light. So it's essentially like Payne's Gray. But I think, I don't know, this should be an interesting thing. And you also have like a darker red, almost an auburn color, you know? Ginger Shadow is what it's called. So, you know, there's a lot of cool things. There's a few skin tones here. You can see the yellows, you can see a few of the purples. So yeah, we're going to get started. And then I'll just kind of walk through my decisions as I'm making them. So let me move, because I'm going to knock that over, I know for a fact. Let's do that. All right. So first things first, I'm going to tone my canvas. All right. We're going to grab a darker neutral, or I guess like a warmer neutral. I'm going to get my square brush. And get this at least covered. Not all the way covered, but covered enough that there's some visual interest here. Kind of the same way we'll do that. Then I can also come in maybe with this color and blend these in. This is essentially just making negative. How's the painting from Wednesday coming? It's coming pretty good. I had it open a few days ago, and I was working more on it. I replaced the ship in the background with a kind of a pirate ship, because I think it fit the vibe better. And I am changing the perspective a little bit. I noticed that the hand that was holding, or no, the hand that was not holding something, the hand that was holding something was actually correct in perspective, since we were like looking up. But this other hand wasn't. The reason why it was throwing me off is that hand was flat, but I needed to actually see the underneath side of it, kind of where the knuckles are, like this. So once I fixed that, the whole image started working better. And then I was able to like lock into that perspective, and then everything else is looking correct. So I was like, oh, okay. So we may revisit that one this upcoming Wednesday. Because this one should be just a one-off. As far as just chilling and, you know, making a atelier style painting. And you'll notice that whenever I kind of come back and forth through these, I have quite a few colors that are very, very close in value. And I'm basically going to like transfer between them and pick one and then the other and then the other and then the other. Because what it does is it gives you this nice vibrancy. Because a lot of people worry with oil painting if, like, they're like, oh, what if I don't pick the exact, or what if I don't mix the exact right color that I did the day before? Let's say you were doing a painting and you came back, you know, 3 days later and you had to remix your palette. Some people get worried because they're like, oh no, I thought I memorized the mixing recipe or whatever, like 3 parts this color to 1 part that color, and I did it and it doesn't match what's on the painting. That's actually good. As long as the value's close, in my opinion, you get a more interesting painting whenever they don't match. Because now you're filling in, you know what I mean? You're filling in like stuff like this. Like, yeah, that's a little darker, but I know I am going to be blocking in. But see how it kind of just melds in? You're getting more of an interesting look, in my opinion. And we are going to use some lines. I'm going to do some sketchy stuff here, excuse me, in a minute. But for right now, this is just getting tone and some sort of interest on the canvas. And also, this is a great way to kind of start working on proportion without locking in any design details. So you can see I'm just kind of following forms right now. And maybe you can start seeing the silhouette, you know. But yeah, this is a really easy way to work whenever you're working with traditional materials, because nothing's wrong. Like, you're not trying to lock in a sketch to look exactly right and then paint within the lines and then, like, no, this is a way more freeform kind of vibe, and you get some really cool results doing it too. So you can see how I'm slightly going a little bit darker, but I'm using that one basic block and brush just to sort of give me a map, you know. Like I said, we will come in and get the proportions right and all that stuff, but that'll be here in a minute. See, what's nice is I usually like to get, yeah, like just the shadow planes of the face and block those in, because it really tells me a lot, and it tells me a lot about the proportion already. So I do know that, like, this needs to be there, there. Let's do that darker green. This is just it's a much easier way to work than trying to lock down a sketch and all that stuff early. Let's do that one. Oh my goodness, Alpha, thank you so much. I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. I don't know if the deal already came up or if it will come up on the stream, but it should here momentarily if it hasn't already. You can see since I made the palette already, it's easy to just kind of like pick a light, pick a mid-tone, pick a dark, and that's it. That's all I'm worried about. I'm not worried about like color matching. I don't care, you know, because it's not important. That part's not important. Let me. That's what I wanted. It does need to be a little bit bigger here. A bit of light hit right there. And this is fun because I haven't even gotten into the good brushes yet, you know. This is just all the basic block out brushes. Yeah, this is my painting comfort food. This type of stuff I could do forever and ever and ever. If there was a market for this, I'd be sitting pretty. You know what I mean? Like, I could do this all day, every day for the rest of my life. It's just very, very, very old school. And nowadays, companies want you to be a little bit more contemporary whenever you're working on like illustration for games and stuff like that. Because a lot of people will see art like this, and while they appreciate it, it's quote unquote more boring because it's more academic. You know what I mean? Like this, I mean, and that's fair. I mean, well, I guess fair is not the right word. Like, I get where they're coming from because it is. This is how you train to do portrait paintings. You know. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Of course, it's my pleasure. See, and I love just like talking shop like that. I love getting in here and just doing some nonsense, you know. Let's add one of these. I don't even know if that's a good color to choose or not, but who cares? It's funny because painting like this gives me more like Craig Mullen vibes than even if I were to use like my Craig Mullins brushes. Because I think this is more true to like how he learned. And this is where he gets his knowledge from, and like his style very much comes from this type of painting, which I appreciate, because like I get it. I kind of learn the same way, you know. Yeah, so some of these colors may not be the right thing simply because their value is a little off. But that's okay. We will fix that. This is just one of those things that we got to get. We got to get these shapes and these lines and all that stuff on the canvas, and then we can come back and correct it here in a little bit. And like really get the proportion correct, and we'll look at Henry Cavill's very handsome jawline, you know, like make sure we nail that. But see, we're gonna do that type of, it's a little too dark, but that's fine right now. But notice how our shadows are just sort of like saturated, you know, but they're almost like glazed in. I think that's a fun look. Like, that's a cool thing to do. And if we do like highest highlight, boom, 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 boom. We're just getting these planes down, you know. And I'm also looking over here because it sounds weird, but sometimes I like to look over because I have a preview window of how the stream looks. So I see it on this monitor, but every monitor is different just because of how they show color or the brightness level or the year they were made. You know, like if you look at a Kindle versus an iPad versus a cell phone, all of those monitors look completely different. So it's actually kind of nice to see the preview window here because I can see a really tiny thumbnail of what I'm looking at compared to the reference right here. And then I come look at the big thing so I can notice if the angles on stuff are off. Like right now, the angle on the nose is a little off. I need to crook it a little bit. It's peak jawline. Like, Cavill's a handsome dude. Handsome dude. Ridiculous. But like, then if we come in and kind of carve that shadow shape, and notice I'm still working just on shapes. I haven't even started sketching. In fact, I'm kind of liking where this is going. I'm going to get more sharper brushes and come and refine silhouettes and stuff, but I may not even sketch necessarily. I don't think it needs it, really. Like, maybe to get some of the details in, like once we get the curve of the eyes and like the eyelid and maybe the tear duct and stuff, we can get a paintbrush, make it small, and kind of sketch that stuff in. But this has always been kind of the way that I like to work, is, I don't know, I guess it's a little bit more a la prima, like one and done. I don't do a lot of layers. Like, I don't know. I just never quite clicked with it. But I will say the nice thing about digital, and I'll actually do this in a minute, I'm going to tilt the head. I need to fix the angle a little bit, I think. In fact, let me do that right now. Because the way I hold a pencil is very bizarre. Like, if you were to see me, like, sign a paper, like, if this is the paper, I come in and, like, I hold it like this. And I think the reason why is whenever and let me come to the big window so you guys can see. The reason why I would have, like, a piece of paper here, I wanted to see what I was drawing as I drew it. So a lot of people would sketch like this, and I was like, you're blocking what you're drawing. So I would always reach over. Literally, this is how I hold the pencil. Reach over, and then I do this, because I want to see what I'm doing as I'm doing it. But it always makes, and it never fails. It did whenever I was little. It does now, and I still have to, like, do stuff about it, you know, is basically I have to tilt or like in my mind, I have to tilt stuff to like, I don't know, compensate is the word. That's what I was thinking of. Compensate for that tilt in my hand to do it. It's really bizarre. It always has been. Yes, so I paint like that too. Unless if it's a larger canvas and I'm putting stuff down, I'll do the old school method to where I have, because I have some super long paintbrushes. I have like full hilt paintbrushes where I'll actually do the thing and then I'll just do arm like this. And that's how helpful, because anytime I need to look at the reference and get proportions, I can do the old artist trick where you use your pencil and you measure on your pencil, and then I'll like put my thumb down, like, oh, if the top of their head is up here, and then I follow. Oh, their chin is right here. Great. Then whenever I come down, I'll put the top right here, and then mentally mark where my thumb is, and then I'll make that line with a brush. It sounds way more convoluted than it is, because explaining it's weird, because I just do this subconsciously. But it's fast. It's a super fast way to like, it's like you're Zorro. You're like sword fighting your brush strokes out. But then whenever I get into the nitty gritty, yeah, I will load up brushes. I'll hold my palette. I'll have my palette next to me. I'll do this, and then I'll come in and I'll be like, bum, 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 bum. But yeah, I'll do the hand curve and everything, which makes it weird because a lot of my art instructors would be like, what's the difference between using a filbert brush and a flat brush and a round brush? And if you're holding them all exactly the same, you don't get any of the benefit, which is true. Because since I'm curving them and making them sharp on the tip, yeah, every brush is kind of the same to me. But whenever I do the big strokes, get a big brush and boom, boom, that's when you can really, get the good feel of it, you know. So I was going to tools. What was I going to do? It's so weird. Control T is the hotkey to open a document. I don't want to do that. I want to grab a lasso tool. Selection. Or I could just like select all, right? Oh, or transform layer contents. There you go. Oh, look at that. Do you see what that hotkey is? Control, Shift, Alt, and T. That's too many buttons for me, bro. Too many buttons for me. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Then I'm going to turn it so it kind of matches that angle. Let me look over here. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, that's about right. That might also fix our nose problem too. So then we got that. Cool. Great. Tools. Okay, there we go. Let me grab. Boom. There we go. Easy peasy. Let's actually get something a little lighter here. And now we can start our lightening of the canvas. And yeah, this is still the same one brush, but I will come in with a more painterly brush here in a little bit. I have some really good ones, some really good like thick impasto brushes that we'll use here in a bit. But right now we're still kind of in the blocking in phase, in my opinion. So just want to make sure that silhouette looks right. It's a little too wide now. I mean, mine. Well, I guess that canvas is actually wider on the reference picture than what mine is. So that's fine. We'll just keep it like it is. Here we go. Don't want any tangents where, there we go. Don't want any tangents where I have my brush strokes. So we kind of like Asaro-headed this out, right? So what we can start to do now, let me sort of refine these shapes, maybe soften them a little bit, because then we can come in and yeah, we can follow the brush work, the actual like contour lines of the fabric with your brushes. And that's going to help define some of these shapes as we go on. I'm also a big fan, I know I mentioned Craig Mullins, but I'm also a big fan of Li Shin Yin. He does a lot of portrait paintings in this style as well, which is really cool to kind of study and learn from. Let me sort of do that. And then let me pick that. And then the mouth won't quite look right here, but we'll figure it out. That's going to come in. And remember, we have our M shape here. And then you can have a brighter shape here. So yeah, the likeness is a little off because the lips aren't quite right, but I mean, that's always what Sargent would say. A portrait is a picture of somebody where something is wrong with the mouth. And he's absolutely right. So I need to actually like extend this out a little bit more. Give him a little bit more of a chin. And really what the nice thing to do is to make sure this transfer between, there we go. And make this a little darker. Make around the nose a little lighter. There you go. Same thing here. There are very basic rules with a portrait that if you follow them, it makes stuff, yeah, you kind of sculpt the paint. And that's sort of the best way, in my opinion. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. But this is a great way to go because it's always kind of changing and evolving, and like it seems way more alive, in my opinion, than having, I'm gonna make my sketch and I'm gonna make the sketch exactly right and I'm gonna do the proportions and I'm gonna map it out on a grid and I'm gonna, like, to me it doesn't, I don't know, it just never felt lively. It never felt good. That there. And yeah, see, this is now whenever we start getting into more of the, like, specific brushes, this is what's going to happen, right? This is where we're going to really start making the likeness work. Because with a portrait, and we talked about it on a stream before, but on a portrait, every little bit counts. So like, if there's a smudge in the wrong place, it's gonna look different. It's going to throw off whatever you might be going for. So yeah, this is essentially our block-in. All right. Something easy. Something fun. It's looking the part. Can bring that in. Oh, we can also bring that in a little bit. I think that goes over a little bit more. There we go. Has that very stoic, like, straight down jaw, my friend. Well played to you. Definitely won the genetic lottery. He did. So you notice I'm still using kind of the unwieldy bigger brush because I don't want to start rendering detail too early. I think there's still a lot you can get done here with like subtle, you know, stuff like that. Like one little tiny subtle stroke can actually do a lot right now. And then kind of blending it in. And a majority of these brushes are actually default brushes within the program, which is nice. They just work really well. Yeah, ArtRage used to be my go-to for everything. It just works super well. You know, we have kind of this here. This is sort of coming here. All right, and then if we have more of those threads like this, just to give us some detail to work with later. We are going to come back and kind of fix all these angles and all that stuff, but this at least gives us some meat on the bones, you know. And it's nice because since we're choosing colors from the palette that we have, some special exercise or something with the sepia tones. No, it's just, it just feels better. It feels a little warmer. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna add some of the more gray stuff to kind of cool it a little bit, and we can push and pull and play with those. But yeah, it's just fun. I love the Zorn palette, and the Zorn palette goes very warm, very, very warm. Because I mean, it's yellow ochre, it's cadmium red, so those are your warms, and then your cool is titanium white and ivory black. So you use gray as your blues and greens. It's nice because it's very controlled. It's always cohesive, and it's you're always gonna make good looking. You're always gonna make good looking portraits with a Zorn palette. It's made for it. It's literally. You only use 4 colors, and then you blend and get all the values right, and you're off to the races. But this is fun. It's a fun way to go. But now we can actually... Here, let me fix one thing real quick. I don't like how sharp that goes in. We haven't even worried about the hair yet coming in, but I think that goes a little bit too dark. I don't want it to go quite that dark yet. So we're gonna blend this back out a little with a little bit lighter of a value. We can keep some around the ambient occlusion areas. We can keep that real dark right there to kind of give us where's our limit, where's our value limit, you know? But I don't want it to, you know, I want to fade in some of this going into the shadow. Because like I said earlier, shadows are transparent a vast majority of the time. You're going to have a lot of lost edges and stuff until you bring in that transparent, darker glaze and make your shadows. We have that. Okay. So yeah, we have something like that. This actually needs to kick out a little more. I think I'm showing too much of this eye, relatively speaking. So if we kind of cut this in, bring that in, bring that over, bring that down, get rid of that. May not match exactly, but it's drama. So yeah, this is very much art college, like through and through. You go to art school, this is how they're going to teach you. I'm not even worried about blocking in the eyes yet, really. This. Okay. Now we can start bringing in some other paintbrushes. So this is where this painting's gonna go off to the races, man. Oh, thank you so much. How long have I been drawing? So, long story, I used to draw all the time as a kid, and then went to art school in 2004, went until about 2006, 2007, and then dropped out. Didn't pick up a paintbrush again for 13 years. Like, I always made the joke, the only reason I picked up a pencil was to sign papers. You know what I mean? So I did sales jobs, I did all that. Worked in technology, learned how to code, did all that. Worked at a college, and then came back to art in 2019. And then started working for Warhammer and Star Wars, and it's fun. So I've been doing it all my life, kind of. I just took a decade-long break, you know? But it's always gonna come back to you. It's like riding a bike. See, that... I know why the lighting is that way. I might actually change that in mine. Not the lighting, but like the way this, because that harsh shadow right there is almost a tangent. It's not really a tangent, but if you're not careful, it will look like one. I'm not careful, so. Something here, I need to kind of bring this nostril in a little. I know I said I wasn't going to worry too much about lightness, and here I am trying to buckle down the hatch, right? But yeah, well, really where the lightness is going to come in is the eyes. Whenever I render out the mouth, and then whenever I do the eyes, that's really where it's going to be like, oh yeah, that's Henry Cavill. But like I said, I'm more about the mood of it than I am the likeness, so to speak. It's just you can't really have a good portrait if it doesn't look like a person. Even if the person's like fictional or your original creation or whatever. Let's darken that up a little bit. I do want... Okay, there we go. I want some sort of mapping to tell me where stuff is. And we haven't even, that hair takes up a lot of visual interest, and we haven't even added that yet. So we're here now. That's good enough that we can duplicate it. Now we can start using thicker paintbrushes, okay? This is where the thing's really going to start to sing if I did my job right. What career do you recommend for dedicating oneself to art? Oh man. It depends on what your overall goal is. If you don't mind drawing other people's ideas, you can be an illustrator. Because you're going to get hired from other companies that need work done. So whether that's a comic book artist, oh, you're going to do the, cover for Spider-Man. Okay, well, you didn't make Spider-Man, but you're going to do some cool covers. Or if you work for like Star Wars, I did a board game for them. So it's like, oh, you do Boba Fett. You're going to paint Boba Fett and these 42 other paintings, but they're all going to base around Boba Fett doing some stuff. So like, I'm making somebody else's artwork. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're giving the idea, I get it approved through Lucasfilm, I get it approved through Ravensburger, and then all the art directors say yes, they put it by committee, so it's a big thing. If you want total control, if you have something to say, if you want to put yourself out there, if you want to do that, go into fine art and don't look back. Because that's the only place where you will have total creative control. Any other thing, whether it's key art or marketing art or concept art or any sort of commercial art where you're getting a job at a studio or getting a job for a big name client, your creative control will be pretty limited. You'll have some ideas, you'll throw them out there, you can maybe color grade some stuff, but like your hands are going to be tied. So if you like doing fan art, if that's like one of your favorite things, that's a good sense that going into illustration might be the job for you, because you're probably going to be doing some form of fan art, even at a professional level, because you're going to be working with clients that already made a character and you're going to be making art of it. That even goes for like Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering. A lot of this stuff, they're giving you a real fat art Bible. They're giving you a 300-page document saying, okay, if you're going to make a red card in Magic the Gathering, this is the hex code of the red that we want in there. We need it to be these dimensions. You can't have anything that has this, or that. Like, they're giving you a list of things you can and cannot do. And if you're not ready for that, it can feel very limiting. But I actually like that because it makes the decision making easier for me. Because now I don't have to worry about it. You know what I mean? Like, I can use my creativity and I can use my skill set to make that thing happen, instead of, imagine every time you wanted to make a movie, you had to reinvent the camera. Like, there's no need for that. Like, you don't need to do it. Oh, thank you so much. But yeah, I mean, just doing it at the level of like illustration and stuff, I like that because you have deadlines. The work needs to get done. You can't overthink it. Just get it done. But if you want to tell your story more so than anything, do the independent thing. Do whatever you feel like is the thing. Whether that is fine art, try to get it into a local gallery. Try to find other art buyers that are interested in like what you have to say. Because really you're selling yourself as a fine artist whenever you go. Because they're not just buying the painting, they're buying you. If they like you as a person, they're more likely to help you, and support you by buying your artwork. Does that make sense? Like, so it's very much a sales game. It's very much which I, later in life, I might be into that. But I think illustration is a great way to get your chops. Like, you have to know perspective. You have to know color theory. You have to know storyboarding. You have to know all of this stuff because you never know what job is going to come across your desk. You know what I mean? Which career to choose. Yeah. So there's a lot. My biggest piece of advice, the number one piece of advice, and this is for every artist, for every medium. It doesn't matter if you're a musician or a painter or a photographer or, a glass blower. It doesn't matter. Do not chase after jobs. Chase after skills. If your skills are there, you will get jobs. Promise. You're going to have to shoo people away. You're going to have so much work, you're going to be up to your eyeballs. If you're chasing skills, that's what's going to happen. You're going to get more and more skilled. You're going to get better and better. But if you're chasing jobs, be ready for a lot of heartache. Because the jobs might not be there. At least right now. Like, and it's not your fault. And it's also not the company's fault. But like, what if the company has all the artists they need? We're just not hiring. Like, your work's great. It's a perfect fit. We would love to have you aboard. We have no openings right now. It's not up to anybody. You know what I mean? Like, if they can't hire, they can't hire. But if you're chasing skills, my whole mentality is to like get so good that people can't ignore you. To where it's like, oh, if the art director the art director sees your work and they love it so much, they will make room on the team to get you aboard. You know what I mean? Like, if you are hitting it, if you are just nailing everything you're doing, they're going to be like, we need to pick this person up now. Like, they will fight people to get you on their team. You know what I mean? Just chase after skills. Whatever you're interested in, go do it to the best of your ability. Get better and better. It's not a day over day progress. It's a year over year or decade over decade. How good are you getting year over year? That's the long game. Don't worry about, oh, well, this week I had a bad week, or today's painting's not very good. It doesn't matter. Just keep going. Keep grinding it out, and you're going to get there. I guarantee it. If I stop doing any of this for over a decade, and I get to come back and work with some of the biggest brands on earth, anyone can do it. I promise you. So yeah, there's my Wes inspirational tirade for this for this little bit. Let me come in. So this is the merged layer. So the reason why I made a duplicate copy of this layer, I know I'll probably get that. Is it oil blender? Maybe. The reason why I did that is I wanted all of this information here so all the paint can mix properly, right? Where else smudge? Is that mine right there? Oh, okay, I see. So that's not quite the right smudge brush I need, but we'll get there. It will be great for this though. If I come over, let's just do a flat brush. Let's get this silhouette nailed down. You know, we can come in and I know the reference is a little taller on the deal. Yeah, that's true. If I wanted to go back to college, I would get probably a teaching certificate and then go that route. Because yeah, that way you get to like kind of share the wealth, you know? Now, I will say that the arts, you know, decade over decade have been cut more and more, so that's not great. But, I mean, art has existed longer than any other, pretty much any other topic you can learn about in school, right? I mean, people have seen cave paintings back to 30,000 years ago, so it's always existed. You know, there's going to be a market for it. You know, oh, I was wondering. I thought the music paused for a minute because I can't hear it. It's down really low. There it is. There's some music. So here I'm just kind of bringing in, I'm color picking and then also just really looking at the values of what I'm doing. That way I can get the silhouette shape in. I need to kind of blur this. I might do the blur passes in something that is not ArtRage. ArtRage is great at a lot of things. really smooth blending is not one of them. But that's kind of nice because you sort of want chaos that you can meld and like mingle with. At least in my opinion. And I know this comes down a little lower than what it does there, but I actually kind of like that. So I'm going to keep that up. And what's fun is here in a minute, I'm actually probably going to move the reference out of the way. Once we get to a point to where this is starting to really work, then we'll just kind of paint. You know what I mean? Because we'll know what needs to get done and we just have to do it. It's funny. Mine does look like a Jedi instead of a instead of the Witcher. So we'll do a flat dry brush. I'm gonna glaze that in. And then here's a good glaze brush. Filbert blend. There we go. Something to sort of smooth out the pocket there. There we go. Let's add some impasto stuff. That should be fun. Come back around here. Because that dark edge is going right to the edge, which we don't need yet, right? So, that. And these brushes are fun because you can add a lot of sharp detail, but they have really nice brush strokes on them. So like, see that nice impasto sort of thick paint look? That really helps getting in detail. Big problem with color theory. Yeah, so I do have a course on color theory, where it's literally called Simplifying Color Theory because of that exact thing. And I'll be working on volume 2. It's actually in the middle of production right now. But yeah, color theory is one of those that it can be a bear. And I always say that value is more important anyway. So the black and the white is always like, value does the work and color gets the credit. That's the old art school mentality, and it's absolutely right. If your values are right, the painting is right. I know some people disagree with that, but I think those people are wrong. And also, you can make some gorgeous paint, like absolutely stunning paintings in pure black and white, like in pure, you know, grisaille or whatever you want to call it. Because it's, yeah, you can do some big impactful stuff, because that, you have to think, you know, that way you can have different compositions, you can have, you know, all of the other stuff that makes an image interesting can be done without even worrying about color. Like if the image reads well, you know, is it dark on, you know, dark on light, light on dark, like all of the other fundamentals really come into play. Something like this. There's a really kind of sharp brush, but it's working okay to start putting in some of these value shifts and all that stuff. And also you can carve some really nice shapes like that with this brush. Let's do an old brush. Why don't we bring that in? All around. Let's bring it back to the square canvas. Blur that in a little bit. That needs to be rounded on the side. And that's blurred in a little bit more. See, the secret to like quote-unquote realistic looking paintings is to make sure that your a majority of the edges in your painting are actually soft edges. Because if you have a whole bunch of really sharp edges in your painting, it ends up looking very kind of artificial and digital. But this is only if you're wanting to go after that more like traditional style look. I put up a new course today called Traditional Looks for Digital Paintings, and it kind of covers it. It has 3 different methods on getting super good traditional looks. So got that one. So if that goes here, and that goes here, kinda sorta. And then crank that a little bit. Actually, let me get the darker. It's too dark, but I need to put the sides of the eye in. It's funny, having the eyes like that reminds me of Bateau from Ghost in the Shell. Having those white, like, orb eyes. But yeah, this is basically just kind of nailing down the value of where the eye goes. We're going to worry about the actual pupil and eye construction and shape and all that stuff here in a little bit. I just needed something there so we can start doing this other part. So yeah, I think that's kind of getting away from me a little bit. So let's go and smooth some of this out. Yeah, I need to block in that hair because I think having that hair there will actually help me with the rest of the proportions. You know? As far as brushes go, a couple of Blaze brushes in a pack, and I have no idea what to do with them. So, with glaze, normally I think it means low opacity. So a glaze brush, whenever I'm working, is something that if I want to introduce a little bit of color, I'll put that color on a glaze brush or a low opacity brush and then barely bring it in over top the color that's already there. And the nice thing about that is you can build that up. So if it's like a 20% opacity brush, you do one stroke and it's not quite enough, you can do another stroke and then it might be there. Or if you want to go real ham, you do it, 5 times, and then you're at 100% opacity. And then you can kind of taper off from there. So glazing, it's sort of the same thing as if you're working traditionally. You're either going to add some sort of mix, like some sort of a medium into your paint, almost to make it like a glaze. There's such thing as glaze medium that thins out the pigment, but it keeps the consistency. So you can still paint, but the amount of color or the amount of the pigment that is transferred isn't as high. So it still feels like paint and it still has the same consistency that you have. It might be a little like milkier, I guess. But then whenever you put that over, it slowly introduces the color instead of, well, I'm going to get a big red brush and go bloop. And then now you have this big red streak, you know. Takes longer than all the other steps. So what's the balance? How do you know when the piece is done? Okay. What's up, Limbo? So great news is that you're doing it the right way. So Limbo said, is it bad that finalizing my paintings, the last part of a process, like, detailing, rendering, the special effects, any of that type of stuff, takes longer than all of the other steps combined? That's how it's supposed to be. The first 20% of your painting time will get you 80% of the way done. The last 80% of your time will be spent on the final 20% of the painting. And that means eyelashes, hair, lighting, lighting you get in pretty quick. But like making sure, is the rim light right? And is it really following the form? And is it blah, 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 blah? That's where all of that, like this type of stuff, we've only been live for an hour and 20 minutes. If I were to push this to final, this painting could take me 10, 15 hours. But we already have the silhouette here. We already have kind of the shadow shapes. We have a lot of the information already. Now it's just refining. Yeah. So it's like, it's like Dune. It's like a Jedi. It's very different, but still fun. Still fun to do, right? So we got that. So like perfect example of glazing is, let's say I wanted to add a little bit of red to that lip right here. If I just barely bring in a little bit, see how it's not super overbearing? And even if it is a little overbearing, I can always come back and like select that color and then like glaze that other color over top of it again. And you start getting small variations. So that's what I think when I think of glazing. And you can see here, I know it's time to move on to the next part of this painting, simply because I'm going over places I've already been over. And whenever you start doing this in overworking areas, it's never a good sign. It's never a good sign. Because we can keep a lot of this very like painterly. And in fact, we can come in here. If I do like the West oil brush, if I do something like this, I do a few of these strokes, make it a little more interesting in the areas of rest. See how we're getting a lot of that thick brush work? Then I can come in here in a little bit and temper that down. But this gives us something to look at. This gives us some real grit that we can kind of play with later. So any information is good information. You know, we have something like that. We can even go lighter. corner, boom, boom, right? So we're still separating the silhouette out. That's what all of these lighter brush strokes around. It's not even necessarily rim light. It's just we're giving ourselves a little leeway on this shape. Now, let's see if we can use this brush that I have right now and add in some of that hair. So if we grab something a little brighter and start it here. And you see, I'm just gonna kind of like this in. I need to darken up here though. Because the light's catching it there. Right. Darken here. Let's grab this. We want to make it to where there's no weird areas to where it looks out of place. So we kind of got the darker right there, and the light being hit right there. And even get something like this. Bring that hair there. See, the nice thing about these silhouette style things, like just the shape of the hair, is the viewer gets to do the work. Like, it's not up to me to render every strand of hair. It's up to me to get the blocking of light in there. And then it's up to the audience to, like, do the rest. You know what I mean? So, like, this actually comes up here. Come that way. Okay. And also add a little bit of variance here, a little bit of something to look at for texture's sake. Right. And that's, we can make this a little more shape-based. Look at that. Shape-based right there. And I actually like that being just slightly darker, but not overwhelmingly darker. Right. That's fine. So that looks fine. I can come in, kind of zoom some of this out. So anything right near the silhouette of the subject, I actually don't want it to be super textured, because I want that contrast of having nice light, smooth light right around, so it really punches up all of the brushwork on Geralt. So we have that. That kind of comes in. That kind of comes there. Also introduce a little darker right here. That's fun. And slowly bring in some softer brushwork right here. Yeah, I need to actually like liquefy and get this figured out, because it's not quite right. This needs to be darker down here. Because now we're getting close enough that all of the nuances and all of the differences between my painting and the reference are throwing the eye off. You know what I mean? Because it's not quite right. It's not quite where it needs to be, because the proportions are slightly off. And they're not off a big, like, great amount, but they're off enough. They are off enough that, especially seeing it right next to the quote unquote real thing, you know, it's kind of disarming. It's like, oh, something's not right. Oh, that's where this is wrong. That's where this is wrong. Like, you can get caught up in that for hours and hours and hours. And every change you make changes everything else around it. So that's kind of like a tug of war you have to learn how to play. Of how much do you want to keep it stylized? How much do you... What part do you like more? Do you like the brushwork being more interesting? Or do you like the likeness being dead on? Because you can have both. But where are you going to spend your time? Do you know what I mean? Like, because time is money. Actually, that needs to come in a little bit. Maybe not that much. And really darken around here. Comes up a little more. Comes off to the side a little more. Man, this is starting to look a little better. So yeah, it's all in the nose. This T shape. So if you ever wonder about likeness, the T shape, where the ears are, the eyes coming across, and then right from the middle of your brow bone all the way down to the middle of the chin. Those proportions need to be perfect. If you want likeness, that's where you get it. Everything else can be whatever. Even like the size of the head can be small or large or whatever. It's just that area. Because if you take a look at like caricature artists, that's how they do it. They can extrapolate, but the way they do it is they look at proportion. How big is this compared to this? So how many eyes wide are your eyes away from each other? Like that type of math that they're doing to make sure that they can get a piece that looks like the person, but is not so realistic that it turns into like a Rembrandt painting or whatever. I'm going to add that darkness down here. It just adds a little bit more depth to the nose. Noses are a lot of fun. They're actually some of my favorite things to paint because once you nail it, it looks awesome. Like, once you get it, it just makes a painting work. Get that bright light there. Oh, it's probably a little too bright right there, but I'll just get this. Kind of blend this stuff in, right? Something up here. Blend out, blend out. Bring in a little bit of those descriptive, almost contour lines to kind of tell people's eyes what the cloth is doing. This is actually a really fun thing to do in material studies, is different types of fabric will have different like threading lines, and you can use those threading lines to inform people on how drapery is like draping over people. Right. And that. All right. So I think we're at a decent point now. Now I want to make the decision. Do I just want to stick within ArtRage? Or do I want to go to another painting program and really start digging in to like details? Or is this one of those that all I should really do is just refine the eyes, maybe change some of the proportion, and then just call it done? So this is always the struggle of knowing. I know someone so Limbo asked earlier, like, how do you know a piece is done? If you find yourself going over the same parts over and over and over again and nothing's really happening, you're done, because you're just spinning your wheels at that point. And a lot of people get so caught up in like fixing things. Oh, I can fix this, I can fix this, I can fix this. You're going to spend hours on a piece where all you're really doing is overworking, and you're losing the momentum. Like, it's almost like your car is slowing down. As you're going, all of your creative decisions are now kind of flying out the window because you're fixing them. But you're not. You're just going and you're basically painting over the stuff you already painted. So you're just repeating yourself. And then you have to like ask yourself, is that a worthy use of my time? Or could I start another painting, a whole other project, and see how far I can get? You know, because you're not like starting from square one. You're starting from experience. And that is very valuable. You can be a madman like me and do a painting a day for a year and a half. You know. What's up, Phoenix? It's good to see you, my friend. We have that. So, like, yeah, let me fix some of those. Let me blur some of that out. You can do something like that, right? That's cool. Now if I come in with my West knife, I can scrape some of that impasto brushwork out, which is actually kind of a good thing around our silhouette. Right? We still get a cool painterly look. However, the texture can actually be, yeah, that's already looking a little more. There's an area almost like a stroke over here around the silhouette of rest. That way your eye has a chance to breathe. So you can come out here and look and be like, oh, look at all those. That's cool. Or, you know, or you can come and look in here, but there's a nice transition, almost like a bridge where your eyes can rest because there's nothing really to look at right here. What's up, Jonathan? Yeah, it is funny. It is like a Jedi. I think it's the robe. It's that robe color. So we can come in here. We can bring in some more saturation. You know? We can also do this. And some of those brush strokes like that. Let's do that. Oh yeah, and since here there's nothing really to look at, we can do a lot of cool brushwork here. Because here there's kind of nothing. Like this is all shadow, this is transparent, this is... So we can come in and add some fun stuff to look at. And I'll come in with a different brush and clean that back up. But, see what I mean? This gives you at least a little bit of something to reward you for looking at everything on the canvas. Same thing up here. Scrape that. Let's bring in that. This brush is also kind of nice because it blurs edges, even though it acts as a knife, as a palette knife. It can actually blur edges for me too. Like I have to be careful with it because it also puts a very harsh line at the end of every brush stroke. But you can do some cool stuff with it. So if we have something like this, reminds me of early, oh, you've helped my painting techniques for the past few months. Oh, thanks, Limbo. I appreciate it. That's a huge honor. Psychra is amazing. Like, one of the true, like, OGs, you know. yeah, I mean, God, I'm trying to think of some real old school cats that have been doing this for a long time. But yeah, no, I'm honored you think so. So what we have right now is pretty good. Like, it's not exact, you know. I like the nose actually needs to come up a little bit. Um, since he doesn't have pupils and an iris and all that stuff, it's a little more undead looking, which is fine. Or almost like he has his eyes shut. Um, like, because if those were his eyelashes, like right down here, if he had his eyes shut, that could work pretty well. But I do want to practice getting the eyes that way. The only thing is, while these are great brushes for getting this kind of nice impasto, you know, smudgy, canvasy look, they're not necessarily great for really refined edges and like rendering illustrative stuff. So what we're going to do, we are going to save this. Oh my god, I haven't saved this at all. I haven't hit the save button once. That is terrifying. Boom. Witcher sketch 1. Great. Then we'll come in, file, save painting as. Or no, export image file. That's what we want to do. Then, Witcher sketch 1. Work in progress. Save. Okay. We got that. Thank you, ArtRage. You were a ton of help. I'm actually really happy with how that felt, because I haven't used ArtRage in a while. So, well done, ArtRage. Thumbs up to you, my friend. Let's come up. Let's come up over here. Let's come up there. I saved it on the desktop. Boop. Okay. Cool. So now we're here. And notice, the nice thing is, whenever I save it as a PNG, so if I'm ever swapping between programs, like, oh, I want Rebel or ArtRage or like PaintStorm Studio for like really painterly stuff, then I'm like, well, I need to go and refine it, but I want to keep all that painterly information. I always save it as a PNG. The reason why, it's a higher fidelity image than a JPEG. JPEGs compress quite a bit more. They are way smaller in file size, but they lose a lot of detail. And when you're dealing with stuff like this, oh god, stuff like this, you want this to come over and look pretty sharp. Because you see how there's that, but then there's also that nice worn-in kind of canvas texture. With a JPEG, the artifacting, the way that the pixels mingle together, kind of gets rid of a lot of that. You'll still see a little bit of the impasto brushes and stuff, but it like smooths it out. And it does it in a way that's, it can be very helpful. Especially if you're doing a matte painting, you want it to look like almost like it has noise in it, because it really ties everything together. But when you're still working, you want to keep very crisp information as much as possible. So going from an ArtRage or a Rebel over to a Photoshop or a Krita or a Clip Studio Paint or Procreate or whatever, I would save it as a PNG. Still going to be a small file size, but you're going to have a lot of that information fidelity there that's going to work really well with your other brushes in your other program. So that's a quick one. And I know a few people talked about on the Discord server, they talked about getting like tablets and iPads and stuff. That's what I do too. I have a Google Drive specifically so I can save out any like Procreate thing I make, or like Infinite Painter or Art Studio Pro. I'll do that, and then I'll export the PNG file, not the full layered thing, because I don't need the layers at a certain point. Like here, this is one layer, and that's fine with me, because like I'm just gonna paint on this layer, it'll be fine. But I always export as a PNG. It uploads quick, it downloads quick. I can open it in any image software. Super nice. So, what we're gonna do here, I have my brush pack 2025, which should actually be on sale tomorrow. Fingers crossed. I have to make a few other of the assets that I'm putting into the brush pack. But I might do that after I get offline here, even though it's, 1 in the morning. I'm excited for people to mess with the new brushes because, I had a lot of fun making them. So, like I said, this was based on... This is Arthur Gaines. His what am I... Reference. My brain's going asleep. This is his reference that he made for his oil painting. And his oil painting is right here. Dude, like I said, is a savage. He is unbelievable. And you notice he did quite a few things because he kept this low resolution. He had to make up some stuff. So if you look at the mouth specifically, there's just a little bit of a hint of the inside of the mouth and then a little hint on this other side. But if you look at Arthur's painting, he opens up the mouth more. So you can see more, and it allows him to put those teeth in there, right? You can kind of see the teeth here, but it's not as pronounced. You know what I mean? And the other thing is he's adding these nice little visual cues of you can tell he did the warm underpainting like I did, but then he came in with his greens, with his blues, like a Viridian, ultramarine, that type of thing, and with the white, titanium white probably, because that runs a little cooler than lead white. Yeah. But you can see how he did the cools over top. So we could do that if we wanted to go more of that cool style like that. Another great way to do it, we can do the poor man's method, where we just add a nice gradient map. And then we can make sure that it's a nice cooler gradient map. And then we change this over to... Let's change this over to color. That was cool. Let me find mine. So I know mine have a little bit more. There we go. So a little bit more control. So these are definitely going to be cooler than what we have here. Oh, wait. Let me hit OK. Than what we have here. So all of this is cooler, even though this is still kind of warmer, like a brown. It's not nearly this brown. It's not nearly this orange, this warm, this poppy, right? So we can kind of do this. We can introduce it by maybe doing that to sort of gray everything out, because if you're mixing a warm and a cool, it's going to neutralize. But I will do this, actually. So I'm going to keep it at 100%. Let me go in and let me fill the mask with black so we don't see it. Then I can come in with a white brush, since it's masked. Let me get one of my Tradigital brushes. There we go. And then let me bring in, and I know this is going to be super low resolution, but it'll help us a little bit. Where does it get cooler? So it looks like it gets cooler on the shadows, which would make sense if the sky and the area around him, if he's out in the open. That's true. A lot of people follow that rule of oh, if your light source is cool, then your shadows are warm. Or if your light source is warm, your shadows are cool. And that makes for a good image. It always does. But it's not necessarily as oh, if the sky is blue, then your shadow is orange. It doesn't really work that way. I mean, it definitely can, but it's not that. It's more your shadows are cooler than the warm light. It's all relative, right? So that's what we have to look at here. And I mean, technically, all of these browns and sepias and ivories and all that, or not ivories, ochres they are also cooler and warmer depending on the value, the temperature. Like, every color has its own value and temperature relative to everything else. So like these like slate gray kind of browns are way cooler than, let's say, these really pigmented warm blasts that we have. So we need to look. So we can see the kind of cooler shadows like right here. So if I come here and I have a black brush, let me bring it in just a little bit like that and kind of see what this does. So if we want to talk about glazing, this is a great example of what that really is going to look like. Let me actually get my main one brush. This will let me control it a little better. I want that. There we go. Introduce a little bit more of the here. Yeah, so it's very subtle, but I think that works pretty well. I'm gonna move this over here. See what I mean? There's like little, I mean, the values are still the same, which is kind of what I want, but you see that? It's like, well, that one's pretty severe, but that's my, you know, we can soften that out a little bit, come in, and blend that in a little more. So that gives us this nice control without it being overwhelming, right? And then really I can come in. Let's try this. I want to see what this looks like. Then let me get my soft round. Might be a little too much. So if I come back in and sort of warm that back up a little bit, then we can get real crazy by fact that it killed that warm. I really like that warm fold right there. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but it looks good. So maybe I can come over here. So another thing about color theory, cooler colors recede. They very much want to exist in the background. They want to be pushed to the back. So if you want to push something further away from the viewer, that's usually a good sign you want to make it cooler. It's just how optics works. Oh, that's a good idea. I didn't even think about the background. Because now it makes him look even warmer. You know what I mean? So if we do the airbrush. But then we bring it here. Kind of render. Just give it a little bit of variety, you know. Doesn't have to be a pure gradient map thing or not. So we have that. Oh, but I do want to do this. Give me the cooler right here to get that hair to look white. That is a big trademark for Geralt. So stuff like that. You want to stay true to that art Bible. You know what I mean? Like, if he has white hair, give him white hair. Makes your life easier. You know. So we have that. We can come in. Now we can darken up a little bit around the shadows, or warm up a little bit around the shadows. That way, whenever the light hits, it really shows that white. It really shows that. So what I can also do that. So here's what we have so far. Like I said, it's pretty subtle. So this is with it off, right? This is with it off, and this is with it on. So it kind of killed some of the heat a little bit. It rarely kind of pulled it back. So it depends on if you want that or not, because my only thing is it actually got rid of some of the vibrancy. So what I might do is I might get the vibrance slider, turn this vibrance up. Right? Saturation will keep the same. We'll keep that vibrancy. And then let me actually come in through here and airbrush and get rid of some of this. Here we go. There it is. Okay. Let me get it real vibrant right around the shadow where it turns into the shadow form. Right? Same thing here. Same thing here. Here. Vibrant right before it goes into the shadows. Okay. Cool. Alright. Now I think with this, select all, copy merged, paste. Cool. So now we have this. Now we can come in and refine around the eyes and the mouth. And then I think it's done. I think we're done simply because there's not much else to do, really. I mean, I might, you know, get rid of some of the weird tangent brush strokes. But some of these other brush strokes I'll actually keep in. I think it adds variety. It adds a little bit of interest that way. So we will do that. Okay. So let me grab my main render brush. And see, really, we're just going to color pick from the colors we already have. You're going to notice I don't go up to the color wheel very often. I will a few times, probably, but not super often, because we already have everything that we need here. And the nice thing is, once you have a color palette on your painting, if you color pick from it, any color you pick is going to be right. Do you know what I mean? Like, because it's already been established in the painting. So you can definitely use anything that's already on your palette. You can use that for free. You know what I mean? So there's that. I'm gonna kind of meld these in a little bit. There we go. That was a little too bright. And this comes up. There we go. I do need to find the correct angles for some of these harsher. There we go. So see how I'm coming in and I'm kind of just rendering the detail around those T parts of the face. So the eyes, there's no ears on this one, but I will come in around this, like the hood here and sort of like give a little bit more wiggle room to go around the form. You know what I mean? But really around the nose, the eyes, the mouth, that's where I'm going to do a majority of my high impact rendering. Our tighter brushwork, like really kind of razor blade-esque shapes. Because it lets the rest of the painterly stuff in the painting sing. It really gets it to like... Because you have to think, it's a form of contrast. What you're doing here is a form of contrast. Because you're contrasting these sharper shapes with your painterly stuff you already worked so hard to put down. And like, contrast is always a good thing. I mean, in moderation, of course, but you know what I mean. Like, it's never going to go unappreciated if it's handled well. That needs to come in a little bit. Like I said, this may still not look exactly like Henry Cavill, but it looks like a duder. It looks like a person. And that's good enough for me. So if like, here's moment of truth stuff right here. And of course I can come back and fix it, but I would like to get this as close as possible. It's a little too high. That way I don't have to come back and really like really kind of reevaluate how I've put these structures in there. So and you notice I'm going to stay within this sort of value grouping. Because I think it's a little more effective staying within here, and then we can push and pull, getting lighter and darker if we need to. And it just makes it feel more cohesive. Like there, I need a little bit darker. Then that's going to come up here. And that's going to come right there. this, we're going to bring in the value up a little bit, because you have to remember the eye is a sphere. So it needs to read as a three-dimensional shape. Let me grab that. Let me grab that one. There we go. So like I said, not exactly Henry Cavill, but not bad. You know what I mean? Like, and see, this gives us a little bit of something we can work with here. And we can even bring in some of these brushes, like this kind of render brush that I have right here. And you can do some cool like crosshatch type work. And it works really well. And that needs to come up there. Here we go. It works really well in allowing you to get rid of some brush strokes that might be taking away from, like, taking interest away from it. Oh, thank you so much. I'm just big into like contrast. Like, I like the contrast of the thick brushwork with the more illustrative tight render around the focal point. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's cool to do. Really, you know, one of my bucket list items is I'd love to make a Magic card. I've played Magic a lot over the years. I just dig it, you know. I've done work for, you know, Troll Lord games and Gary Gygax stuff, and so we're a step away from D&D, but we're right in the same wheelhouse, you know what I mean? But I would love to do it. It's just so much fun. I just like working on games. I like playing games. So I like people, if they have a game and my art is in it and they're having fun, it's almost like I'm at the table. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that just makes me a loser or whatever, but still. So we're going to put that sharp edge right there. I'm going to do this. There's that. So yeah, this is working pretty good. But one of the points I think I was making, I don't know, like I said, I'm old now. I'm almost 40. So my brain just shuts off sometimes. Adding these little like crosshatch strokes is a really neat way to just, you know, show form. You can do that. You can like literally tell people what direction the form is, almost like a contour line. But it just adds more visual interest, because if you have these thick like impasto brush strokes, but then you have like line, it cuts through. It's almost like a knife. It literally kind of cuts through. It's really cool. So I'm going to do a soft brush right here. And I'm going to bring in some of these. My my Witcher looks real sad. He's a sad boy. I just now noticed that. I was like, dang. He needs to, you know, do the thing. I don't know. So we're going to do the soft brush to kind of soften a few of these transitions on the face. Even though he has a very rugged look, I still like to soften some features because it just, once again, it allows the eye a place to rest, and like it allows the eye a place to appreciate the transfer of form. You know, it's a great way to get form with not much fuss. You don't want to smooth brush everything. You don't want to soft round everything. But you can soft round quite a bit, you know. You can do quite a bit with it. So if we do that, and then like I'm gonna lose that edge right there. There we go. Yeah, this is more and more like Jedi stuff, right? So I'm gonna bring in that. I'm gonna bring in, oh, that needs to cut down a little bit. So I will do that. There we go. Then I will grab that and that. We will soften that up. Now I got like a hair in my eye. So it's a riveting art conversation. Oh, my eyelashes. So we're going to lose some of those edges, right? We're just going to like, I'm just going to get rid of it. Also this, something I learned, I can't remember who I learned it from. It may have been like, it may have been Ryan Pancoast, the magic artist, who talked about the bottom parts of your lips, and you can see it on the reference right here. The bottom parts of your lips kind of meld in lighter, and there's no real separation. They just kind of smoothly come in. So I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to get this. I'm going to lighten it. And then I'm going to do that kind of transfer like this. Like that, right? Now, I do need to kind of smooth that out. But I think that's interesting. And then like here, I'm going to get rid of that. That's going to stay kind of a edge right there. That one. Holy crap, whatever is in my eye, I guess like lives there now. It burrowed in. It made... It's paying rent. Like it's a whole thing. Alright. So we're soft brushing some of this stuff, right? Add a little bit of that form shadow. That one right there. Let's get rid of that edge. Get rid of that edge. Yes. This one. And we can also sort of do some of these. Smooth this out. Really, you just want the eye to be able to rest a little. And it's almost like a light bloom, which is cool. Now, I want to figure out do I want a good way to do this? So here's where the face was before. Let me move this out of the way. Here's where the face was before. And then after just two real brushes, we just have the main one brush and then the soft round. We have this, which is definitely better. But yeah, it's refining the shapes, but you can see how I don't go super heavy on the, on the jawline stuff, even though he has a very sharp jawline. I think with the form going into the shadow, having a soft edge works really well because instead of an edge being sharp, the value change is sharper. Does that make sense? Like it goes darker quickly. So even if the edge isn't a sharp like razor edge, because the value changes so fast, it reads like it's turning. into the deal, right? So yeah, we have something like that. I could come in with like a dry Frazetta brush or the flat canvas, and then I could come in and just do some texture work. Come in here, do some of this, do a little bit of that. Maybe some of these little sprinkles of texture in here, but only do it here, not necessarily on the face. Like if I were to do it on the face, I would probably do it on the nose. But like everywhere else, and just sort of come in here, do that, kind of bring in a little bit of that canvas work. You know what I mean? Give it almost like a canvasy texture on the sides. I can do, yeah, something like that. Spread that way. Let's do that's 3. Yeah, it is fine. But how dark do I want to get this? So if I do like, let me duplicate this. Duplicate a layer, because I want to see what they want to do if I use the auto stuff, like auto tone, auto contrast, auto color. Auto tone, oh. No, I mean, I guess that's cool, but like, that crushed all of the interest here. Like, you can see the brush strokes. I don't know, is that better? I don't know. I can never tell. So this is what Photoshop thinks would be better. So like, before, and then after. But then we can do an auto contrast. Okay, I get that. I get that one. And we can even do something fun with that, because it kind of, it sort of blows out the white, like it blows out the highlights. So we can play with that. So let me undo that just to, then auto color. Okay, so the color and the tone thing, it just changes it that way. Okay. So we can do a few things. How do I want to do this? Let's do 3 duplicate. So 1. Guys. Greens, because that's kind of what it looked like. It went a little more green. And then if I do another one, duplicate layer, highlight blooms. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We have our original, which I'm going to call oranges because it's more of that sepia tone. We're going to auto tone. Now, the highlight blooms, we are going to auto contrast. And then we're going to hide this by making a mask and then filling the mask with black. Now, with our greens, We can also mask it and only keep certain parts of it. So I'm going to grab my soft round. We're going to keep that nice, almost like, and look here. I'm going to just kind of keep everything sort of here, right? I'm going to keep all this stuff on the inside kind of warm. But some of this we can kind of reintroduce, right? So we have that. Now, let's come here with a white. I'm going to do that. That's pretty cool. So now we're going to select all, edit, copy merged, edit paste. Gotcha. So it doesn't look like it did a whole lot, but it actually did. It did quite a bit. I don't know if it's better or worse. So this is just the raw painting. Basically, after painting, this is kind of what it looked like. Then, after doing our mixing of different, you know, the tones and the values, or not the values, the tones, the contrast, and the, what's the other one? Color, contrast, and tone. So using those and then masking them and kind of getting rid and bringing it back and all that stuff. We go from this, which is the raw painting, to this, which does have a little bit like green. There's a little bit green here, a little bit of that. Kind of a nice, almost it makes this kind of seem very highlighty, you know? We can also do some cool effects, like if I were to come up here and I want to bring in some canvas, I can do that. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring in some canvas texture. And we're going to do canvas stamp 2. We're going to make it a little darker. Then we're going to do this canvas pattern, which is pretty egregious, I guess is the right word. Let's do a scratchy canvas right here. We can also do a white canvas right there, right there. Now we can come in and bring in some canvas pattern with color around different areas. The only place we won't do it is the face. Okay. There we go. So, here we go. We got something like that. Now that we have that, we can lower the opacity a little if we don't want it to be super intense. Just a little bit of something. But then let's come in and now let's finalize with our main one brush and get rid of any area right around the nose and the eye that seem a little off. And this will be where we call it. This will be a wrap up. All right. So we got this. What we're gonna do, kind of fix the eyes a little bit. So this is the part of the painting where it's very much just a push and a pull. And we're really locking it in. We're really locking this down now and making this final. So we can do that. And see, you probably notice there's no actual like hue shift in the eyes. So it looks a little weird probably, but I think it works well. We're going to lower that a little. And we have like that. This is going to come right here. That needs to be darker. That's good. Let's smooth that out a little bit. Let's smooth this out a little bit. That. There we go. Bring those in. Do the same thing there. There we go. Now, let me fix this little deal. Violet, what's up? He's so sad. He's a sad boy. He's sad because he ain't on the new seasons. Sorry, I don't even want to get into it. It's a rude thing. But hey, I'm gonna watch it. You know, I like it. I like The Witcher. I like the books. I like the games. I like the show. I ain't no hater. It's just you can't do my man Henry Cavill dirty and then, you know, expect to not get some shade thrown at you. Just can't happen. Come underneath. Correct that. Because the nice thing is, you'll notice I'm not worried about the rendering on any other real parts of the painting. Because if you look at how rendered this part is, your brain is going to fill in the gaps everywhere else. Because, you know, the human eye can only focus on one thing at a time. Maybe two if you're fancy. Actually, that needs to be a little less. There we go. Because, like, if you're reading a book, if you just focus on one word, if you look at one word, how many other words can you reliably see without moving your eyeballs? One or two around it, maybe. After that, everything just kind of falls off, right? Painting is exactly the same way. If you render at your focal point, the further away from your focal point, the messier you are allowed to get. Like, I am a firm believer that that is true, because that's sort of what my career is based on. That's why I got hired for all the stuff that I did. Like, it's really values and focal point. If you get your values and your focal point right, you can use whatever colors you want, you can use whatever the painting techniques you want. All the other stuff is just gravy, because you're automatically going to have an image that works no matter what. You know what I mean? So really, you know, find your focal point. What's the part you want people to look at? In this one, it's going to be his face. It's going to be old boy Henry Cavill's face. How much of that turns over? Is that right? That might be a little too sharp. No, yeah, that works. Maybe that needs to come in a little bit. And then that kind of comes up over it. And then this sharply comes in here. All right. I feel like the values are off here, but I don't know. I could turn it grayscale, and yeah, because that kind of flattened that out, didn't it? There we go. And then mouth. Mouth. Oh yeah, duh, I forgot to add some actual, honest to goodness, highlights on the lips. What am I doing? What am I even doing? I gotta have the light hit the lips, bro. Now, the moment of truth. Can I do that awesome little implied teeth thing? It's really like faint. That's nice. I'm actually going to lower that. I'm going to lower that contrast. There we go. Here's where I'm going to get my soft round. Come and take care of this business. Smooth out. I want to keep some of those hatching lines, but I also don't want it to break up the smoothness of the value shifts on the form. Because a face is all about... There's no real lines on a face. I mean, unless you got bags under the eyes. You know what I mean? Like, the face is one thing. So you want to treat it like one thing instead of all these separate entity parts. Getting there. Okay. Cool. All right. Oh man, how does it? Yeah, that's true. So there we go. Yeah, once again, the likeness isn't quite there yet. I think with context clues, people will be like, oh, is that The Witcher? You know what I mean? Like, which is nice, but also it's not exactly... Not exactly... what we want the whole time. There we go. He does. He looks very, like, worried. I'm interested to see what his project is for Warhammer, though. Like, even if I never work with Warhammer again, I mean, I would like to, but I haven't gotten that call back, you know what I mean? So, if I don't, I'll still have kind of a soft spot for Warhammer. So I'm interested to see what his project's gonna be. Because I know that dude knows his Warhammer. Ain't no mistaken. Something is bugging me about this part of the nose. I just need to, like, get rid of any brushwork and make it super airbrushed. You know what I mean? Something about it is just off. Or at least doesn't feel right, I guess is a better way to put it. The nostril doesn't seem to have... Oh, I wonder if that's it. I wonder if I need to bring this part down a little. And then bring this a little softer. I don't know. But maybe in this transition. So this is what I'm talking about with, like, values are everything, man. I think this might be a value thing. But what's cool, and this is actually a neat effect, and I know this will probably look wrong, but I think I'm going to like how this looks. if I come back up here, I kind of bring that in a little bit more, bring this in a little bit more. There's a lot of oil that collects on everybody's nose, like right where the nostrils meet. You know, I guess the mandible, whatever this is called. There's a lot of places where you can have sharp edges and it works in your favor. And this is one of them. So that's kind of that edge is gone. You know what I mean? It's pretty much so if I came in here and did this, and then kind of here, like that, it actually adds a little bit of something. You know what I mean? Like, same thing here. If I come over here with the bulb of the nose and hard edge it, it's the same thing down here too. You can sort of like block in that shape like this, and it looks really cool. Like, I like how that looks. It may not be correct necessarily, but I like how it looks. Also, you can add a little bit of like highlight there, like really bright highlight, like right here. Kind of bring that in, because that's where oil likes to collect. You know what I mean? Same thing like right here. If I wanted to put the tear duct in, I can lighten that and then just kind of blend in. See, there you go. Now you have a tear duct. It's all based on the value. Change that. That one. And also, I think like right here is a pretty good place for a... Well, I don't know. Do I like that, or do I want it to be still more some like a softer transition? Maybe a softer transition. Let me grab the soft round, and then just in the middle I'll come up a little bit. There we go. Something like that, right? Cool. And then grab main one. Let's go over here. Do that. Do that. We are about done. That. So this is not a bad little portrait done, and you know, oh, I know what I can do. Boom. There we go. There's a nice crisp edge. Have some fun with. Not a bad portrait in what, like 2.5 hours, 3 hours? It definitely got me back to that traditional mindset, which is kind of what the whole point was. Gonna do that. Can refine that edge a little bit more. I'm gonna transfer this one down a little bit. Almost like a lost edge. We can do a little darker here. Bring this up there. So this is all kind of the refinement phase. Let me come up a little bit. I know what we can do to really pop off the hair. Get a nice bright hit, like right here. And another one like here. bring some interest to it. And then here you can kind of just like blend this in a little bit, kind of get rid of that edge. That's fine. That one's fine too. Still show a little dark right there. Bring that in. But then we can come right here. Sharp. We'll keep that a lost edge. We'll keep those lost edges, that's fine. Let me bring this in. There we go. Okay. Now, let's come in and add a little bit of that sprinkle of detail. Give our eyes something else to look at around the focal point. It kind of helps draw the eye to the focal point, you know? Where is my... Let's do plastic wrap. We haven't done that in a while. In fact, I don't think on this one we've done it at all, so... There we go. Yeah, that's fine. I think that's a wrap. I think we're done. Oh. Let's take a look. Yeah, I think that reads okay. There's enough like cool texture here to like have the canvas. We have some impasta brushes. We have just random impressionistic goodies. You know, we have these nice kind of blendy palette knife sort of things. Kind of looking at the preview window here. Oh yeah, so we have more those kind of cross-hatchy painterly brush things right here. Yeah, kind of the rake brushes. Texture, canvas, 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 canvas in the hair. That's cool. Canvas in the hair. So yeah. I mean, it's interesting to look at even zoomed in. And then if it's interesting to look at kind of zoomed out. Has a good silhouette. You know, you can tell what the cloth is doing. It's making sense. That's it. I think we're done. I think that is a wrap. So that is saved. Let me move my mic over here. Oh gosh. There we go. Yeah, and it just passed 2 o'clock, so that's perfect because my bedtime is coming up pretty soon. So yeah, I think what I'm going to do, what's nice is I might be able to use this picture as the cover to the brush pack for 2025's brush pack. Because that's the other part. I couldn't decide on a painting. So I think this will definitely be in the images, for sure, for the showcase images. But probably the rabbit Frank Frazetta one we did. Yeah, there's a few I could use. So yeah, nice like painterly style. Gave us a reason to use sort of a Zorn palette, which we haven't used in a while. It's less stylized, I guess. Like there's still a little bit of it. There's still a little bit of shape language and stuff, but it's less comic book, cartoony, manga stuff that we've been doing lately. So I think this is a nice kind of, like I said, I wanted to shut my brain off. I didn't want to think too hard about stuff. And doing atelier style portraits and like still lifes and stuff, that's how I was trained. So it's almost like subconscious, like the way that I work. I just paint the thing. Is it there? Then paint it. Like it's a very specific skill set, but it's one that you learn in art school. You're doing life drawings, you're doing still lifes, you're doing portraits, you're doing all sorts of stuff based on observing the world. Which is why lately we've been doing more stylized stuff from imagination. Because while my muscle memory and stuff is pretty good on the portrait and the still life and stuff like that, you know, I could always improve. But my imagination stuff is way behind where it needs to be. So that's part of the fun. I will say working imagination stuff is way harder for me because you don't have that safety net of here's your reference, here's your still life, here's your setup, paint it. You have to, you know, how high fidelity can you think about this thing? That's what you're working with about imagination. Like you're trying to break down that barrier of what's in my brain to what's on the paper. With this type of stuff, while I love to do it, nowadays I've done it so many times that it's not mindless because you're still making decisions. But it's way more comfortable than trying to, you know, pull out whatever's in the old noggin and make it make sense tangibly using, you know, imaginative realism or whatever you want to call it. Make it more figurative. That's the balance. So doing a little bit of this one. I think next stream we're going to finish up that one we did of the pirate. I think that'll be fun to work on. That one was very much imagination based. I did a little bit of photo bashing to get some structure in there, but then after that, it's been all like no references, no nothing. So we'll probably work more on that one on Wednesday. But hey, big news! wesgardner.art is now online. I know the website's like down there. If you go there, it has every course I've ever made, every brush pack I've ever made. Yeah, online learning, courses, assets, gradient maps, all sorts of stuff. Free brushes as well. They're ABR, so they work in like Procreate, Photoshop, Affinity Photo, Clip Studio. Krita can import them, but it's really just the brush tip. You have to go in and modify stuff after that. But yeah, those are free, and then I have a whole bunch of other brush packs. The one I was using tonight in Photoshop is the 2025 pack. That should be out either tomorrow or Monday. Should be out pretty soon, and I'll blast it all over social media whenever it's out, but real proud of it. It's a lot of fun to use. But we got some older brush packs there as well. Some are $1, $2, $4 is about the going rate for all of them. That are the higher price are $4. But yeah, there's something for everyone there. So go check it out, wesgardner.art. I hang out there. You know, go fill out the form. I'll give some coupons soon. So if you have your eye on some stuff, go ahead and buy a few courses or whatever. but just know that a coupon is in the works. So we will get there when we get there. But that's my time. Hope you had a fun time painting a Witcher portrait with me. I had a lot of fun doing it. It's pretty relaxing just to be able to kind of listen to music and then, you know, do the painting thing. So until we meet again on Wednesday, have fun, go get some cool stuff, go make cool art, and I will see you all very, very, very soon. Peace.